Kohlmann is an expert on international terrorism. From the early 90s he's fascinated and intrigued by the lives of members of Al-Quaida. Most of us think that international terrorism is maybe a male-orientated movement, but Evan is here to share today that more and more women are participating. Evan, thanks for being here. Welcome to TEDxAmsWomen. In your talk you spoke about the right questions people should ask about women participating. Which questions are you hoping people are going to ask?
Well, I think there's stereotypes about where these people are coming from, about which countries they're coming from. The question should not be about what country. It should be about what is motivating these women to join these groups. And it's not one factor, but I think the same factors that are pushing these women to join these groups are the same factors that are pushing people generally to join extremist groups. So by understanding those factors, we have a better understanding overall about how to stop terrorism, or at least how to deter people from joining the groups.
About these stereotypes, what is the stereotype of an international terrorism member?
Well, look, I mean, when we think about terrorists, we think about the 9/11 profile, the 9/11 model. So it's the angry, young, bearded guy, right? And certainly if you go to an airport and you see someone that fits that profile, probably going through your mind is, that's the guy I don't want to sit near, right? But that's not how it works anymore. And more we're seeing people from a diverse range of backgrounds, male and female, who are getting involved in this. I mean, there's no better example than Samantha Luthwaite, who's the subject of an Interpol Red Notice, whose name surfaced prominently during the attack on the Westgate Mall in Kenya just a few weeks ago, and who's a ringleader, who's a terrorist ringleader, someone who's organizing cells, who's commanding them. She's not a follower. She's somebody who's respected and seen as a leader within these groups. And that's remarkable because she's not even Somali. She's not even from Africa. She's from Northern Ireland and the UK. But that's how things work these days.
Without the beard and without the angry look of a young man.
She has an innocent face. She's from the UK, and yet still she is respected and she's feared by the people under her command. And that tells you something about how these stereotypes really, they don't serve us very well.
Why do you think women become more and more involved in terrorism?
I think part of it is that these groups like Al-Quaida, Al-Shabaab in Africa, they're realizing that these women are just as dedicated to the cause as the male recruits that they had. And because we're right now, from the Western perspective, we're looking for a very particular profile. Now, what's the best way of getting around that profile? To change up what they're doing, to change their modus operandi. So they've experienced a bit of a liberalization. And they're now encouraging women to take violent roles, actual physical violent roles within the group, as opposed to merely a support role.
And who are these women?
That's another interesting thing. They come from a very diverse range of backgrounds. You have everyone from homemakers living in Western countries to the sons and daughters and relatives of well-known terrorists. You know, there's not one individual thing. What seems to carry through for all these women is that they're searching for something. They're looking for meaning. They're looking for a group affiliation. They're looking for something to hang their hat on, something to shape their life around. And that's not that unusual, but these particular women have found that meaning in Al-Quaida, in jihad, in violent jihad. That's what's unusual.
But that's exactly the same as men in Al-Quaida, I think.
Exactly. And maybe those are the factors we should be looking to when we're looking to figure out who is likely to become a terrorist or likely to become radicalized, as opposed to simply looking for guys that have beards.
And why this fascination with terrorism?
You know, it's for us, it's been something that we've had an issue with in the United States now for 20 years. But really up until about 10 years ago, up until about 9/11, nobody really looked at this problem in depth. It was a very cursory analysis. And I think what I realized after studying my research, or starting my research rather, is that there are some very interesting personalities behind this phenomenon. These individuals, well, yes, they're fascinating. I mean, I don't necessarily like what their ideology is, but they're fascinating individuals. And it's very important for us to understand how someone reaches this point. Because if we want to stop other people from reaching this point, we have to understand the process of radicalization, we have to understand the ideology, and I think rather than simply dismissing it, we have to try to process it, and we have to try to figure out what are the weak points here.
And you studying the characters, the persons who are involved, would you say there's such thing as a female approach to terrorism?
Yeah, look, I mean, if we look now, it's not merely a matter of one or two women that have been involved. We're talking about dozens of different women that have become involved. And like Samantha Luthwaite, we're now seeing them take positions of prominence. So I think it really is time that we start addressing this and make people understand that it's not just men anymore. It's not just guys from Saudi Arabia. It's not just guys from Palestine. There's a wide range of people out there that are being drawn into this. And we have to keep an open mind when we're trying to think about who is likely to become part of Al-Quaida.
And the subtitle of this TEDx event is it takes more than one tale to tell a story. How is that related to your TED Talk?
Well, I think that's important because of the fact that if you look, I present a number of different women's stories, a number of different stories, because I think it's not just one story. All these women, they come from different places. They come from different backgrounds. They are of wildly different ages. And I think all this, it's almost like a control in the experiment. We now know that it's not age. It's not being from a particular country. It's not coming from a particular background. That's not what unifies these women together. And that's why it's so important to tell these different stories, because that's how we learn about what really does matter, what really does count towards radicalization.
Thank you very much.